Hi everyone, this is Karen Frith. Welcome to the Consultant Collective series. I've spent the last 10 years working with and learning from some of the best consultants in the market, and now many of them are joining me to discuss how they've built a thriving business, how they've survived huge shifts in the marketplace, and to share the secrets of their success with you. The one question everyone asks me is, how do I start my own consulting business? So the Consultant Collective series will provide answers. Join me and some of the most experienced consultants in my network to learn, apply and share strategies to grow your consulting business. My name is Karen Frith and welcome to the Consultant Collective series.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
How the devil are you?
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay. It's yeah, I go from one thing to another at the moment. It's trying to take different cassettes out my head.
Do you feel like an Atari machine?
Yeah. I think having kids has probably done me the world of good, because you know the way you've got to swap from one thing to another. You know, you can literally be one type of person, you know, mopping up sick and as they when they're babies, and then yes, you pick the phone up and you're ultra professional. You know,
Yeah.
so I've probably trained myself over the years to be able to just literally go from one thing to and be different people at different times.
Yes.
So, yeah. So yeah,
I think that you don't qualify as a parent until you've turned up to work one day with sick on your shoulder.
absolutely. Yeah. And you don't care, to be perfectly honest. Just a major achievement that you've actually turned up to work. So
Yeah.
you know you've got outputs. So, yeah. Oh, wonderful. Well, listen, I'd really like to say thank you before we start, because this is proving to be quite an experiment, and it's great to have different people on, and I know everybody's really busy. I know when we are working with clients, we basically, you know, head down into delivery. We have so much to do in such a short space of time. So, you know, for you to carve an hour or whatever out of your day for us, and it's really great. So thank you so much
No problem.
for that. Just a quick sort of reflection on our background, our relationship. I mean, you know, looking at Pragmatic PMO, you've been running your business for nearly 10 years now. I think 2011 it actually started. But I think we only became in the same sort of circles or the same group probably at the beginning of 2020, late 2019.
Right.
And what was interesting to me was, you know, you obviously are an experienced PMO leader. And as a program manager, when you came into my world, it was like, oh, yet another PMO leader. It was, and we have a healthy tension, I think, when there's a program lead and a PMO lead. There's always, you know, there's always that, well, we need them, but we don't really know why we need them. We just need them. And, you know, there's always, yeah, let's have them, but let's just sort of keep them at arm's length. Let's give them what they need, feed them what they need, and they'll leave us alone. You know, so feed the tiger and they'll stay quiet. But you are different, breath of fresh air. And certainly, you know, I never really appreciated why you did or how you were different until you really started to join some of the calls that we run and start to really contribute to some of the conversations that the group has had. And I think just by doing that, you've really changed the perception of quite a lot of people in the group of what a PMO should be like. So I can only thank you for that. It's quite refreshing. And then you sort of started your video career on LinkedIn, which again has proven to be very successful, and has given people a different insight into what PMO could be. You know, they're not the auditors of the program management world. That, you know, they don't have to be seen as sort of like, well, a necessary evil. Let's get them in and let's have a conversation, and then they'll go away and leave us alone. So again, from the wider program management community, I thank you for that. I think you've done your peers, you know, an unending service, and I think they should be thanking you, whether they are in some of those groups or whether you're seen as the black sheep or I don't know. That would be nice. That would be nice to explore. And then you're a publisher. You know, you've got probably a head start on many of us. I think there's quite a lot of people out there who have the desire to publish a book. I'm certainly one of them, but not got the willpower to sit down and actually complete it. So all of that, it has been really refreshing. Okay. And I think looking forward, it would be interesting to figure out, you know, what's the next steps for you, you know, how you're going to build upon all of that, and how, you know, potentially you can shape the PMO of the future for the program managers of the future that are coming up. So again, thank you. And my first question I'd really like to ask is, what did 2020 mean to you? What did it allow you to do that you would not have had the time to do? You know, we all look at it as being, you know, a challenge, upheaval, or whatever, but I do think personally that there were lots of opportunities, and I'd like to know if you think the same.
Right, before I answer that question, I'm just going to shut this window because a helicopter's just gone past, and if that happens again while we're talking, it could be quite disruptive.
Okay.
Right, just done that. Okay, so 2020, what did it allow me to do? Okay, so I found myself at the beginning of 2020, round about sort of February, March time, just coming to the end of a contract. And as such, because of the events that were going on around the time, lockdown, travel restrictions and all that kind of stuff, and the effectively the contract market going into what pretty much looked like free fall at the time, I thought that there was probably going to be not a lot happening in terms of finding a new contract for at least a little while. So I thought, okay, well, how can I use this this opportunity? How can I use this window to do something positive? And I did a few things, some of them personal, some of them professional. So, for example, personally, I started running. So I started Couch to 5K. Which was quite easy to do, I have to say, because the weather in 2020 was rather nice compared to the weather as it is now. So I started doing that, and I thought to myself, okay, how about professionally, what can I do there? And I'd seen a number of people in LinkedIn who were getting quite good engagement using various different forms of video. So I thought, okay, this is something that I could do. So I'd been speaking at project management events. So I'm a member of the PMO Flash Mob, networking group for PMO people. So I'd done a number of talks at that kind of thing. I'd spoken at project management conferences, so APM, the Association of Project Management, and there's an event that happens in London, Project Challenge. So I'd done some of those kinds of speaking. And I thought, okay, so how can I do that? How can I use LinkedIn and this opportunity to do a bit more of that kind of stuff? So I looked at what other people were doing video wise on LinkedIn, and there was this trend towards a more social form of video, so a shorter form, less formal. So I'd recorded videos, but they would talk, me talking about project management subjects, fairly dry. And I tried to do something that was a bit shorter, a bit snappier, a bit more social, a bit less formal. And I just started putting out some videos. And I did one, and I thought, well, that was pretty rubbish. What am I going to talk about next? And I started to sort of create a little list of things that I could talk about. And I only had about maybe 4 or 5 ideas. But then I thought to myself, okay, well, I could take some of the things that I've done in the past as blog posts, and I could talk about those as videos, convert them into video form. And slowly and surely, I got more confident at being able to deliver short talks to a camera. So I was typically talking about sort of 90 seconds, 120 seconds, that kind of thing, fairly short, fairly informal. I learned some skills of video editing to begin with on my phone. And that was reasonably successful. And after a while, I thought, okay, how can I take this wider? How can I engage more people? And I saw also on LinkedIn that some people were doing some humorous stuff, but with humorous stuff about work-related subjects. So I started doing some of that kind of stuff, and I created this character, the Pragmatic PMO person. That's his outfit over there. So if you look on YouTube or LinkedIn for Pragmatic PMO person, all one word, you'll see those. And I got some great engagement with those. And it helped me to reach new audiences. It helped me to reach people who'd maybe not heard of me before. So if you're thinking about the sort of the marketing funnel, the kind of get known, build trust, generate leads kind of thing. For getting known, that video really helped a lot. And I used it as an opportunity to expand my network. So I was talking to people in the comments. I was looking down the comments and likes and that kind of stuff for people that I'd not come across before, and following them. And sometimes that was enough just to trigger a connection request from them. So I was building my network and reaching out to people across LinkedIn who could be potential customers. So people like program directors, PMO directors. And initially I was looking relatively close to where I live in Bedfordshire and London, where I've been commuting to in the past. But of course, with the technology that we've all been using more during lockdown, we have come to understand that clients don't necessarily have to be near where you are. And indeed, I've been working with a client for just about a year now, and I've never met any of them in person. I've never been to their office, like many people. So I've broadened my reach there as well.
So it's quite a brave move to go on video on LinkedIn. It's brave to go on video completely, you know, and it's not your. I'm finding that lots of contractors, and certainly PMO contractors, you know, they're quite shy, they're quite reluctant to put themselves out there. They're quite hesitant to actually have an opinion in the marketplace because they feel that could limit their engagement prospects going forward. I actually personally think the whole world has changed. I think people buy people, they always have done, and this has given us an opportunity to be more human. Yep. You say you know you've gone through the pain barrier of you weren't that great at the beginning, and you know how
now, by the way, I'm just saying they were worse to begin with.
It's definitely improved, definitely. As somebody who is an avid watcher, it's definitely improved. I'm not quite sure about the beard and the moustache and the hair, but you know we'll go with that for now. But I do think that it does take that bravery pill. You know, it does take that. You've got to get out there, you've got to get past yourself, because there's so many people who have got a lot to say but they can't. So if you've got any tips on how to do it, you know, is it just a big deep breath? Do you script it beforehand? Do you just have an idea and then, you know, freestyle? How do you...
It's a kind of a mixture of both. So for some of them, what I've done is effectively taken a blog post that I've written some time before and changed it around for video. And often that does take quite a bit of editing in terms of what you want to say, because although I like to think that I write how I talk, that's not always the case. And just the way that people speak when they're talking, it's different. So yeah, it does take a certain amount of rejigging. But in terms of doing it and having the courage, it's just a deep breath and do it type thing. Yeah. I was quite nervous at the beginning, and the very first one, the very first video that I did talks about that, talks about my discomfort, and yeah, a certain amount of it is scripted. But sometimes I find when I'm delivering the script, I don't necessarily read it word for word. I find it better to use bullet points, because then it comes across more naturally. If you read a script, and you're not a professional TV presenter, people can kind of tell, I think, and it comes across as a bit wooden. So it can be better just to use bullet points and, as you said, freestyle it, and then do that a few times and pick the one that's the best. And in terms of the approach to actually recording them, what I find I do is even if I have got a script, I'll do it once and read the script, and then I'll do it a second time and refer to the script less, and then I'll do it a third or fourth time, and I'm doing the script without reading the script, and it's nearly always that final take that I use. Yeah. Certainly does need quite a bit of time to do that. I mean, it's, you know, there's a lot more time goes into the thought and the scripting and the recording and the editing, and then putting in place the notes around it that goes out on social media. So for a 2-minute video, you could be working on that for an hour or two. You know, there's definitely a lot more to it than the video. Yeah. But in terms of having the courage to do it, as you said, I think it's a deep breath thing. So some of the things that I talked about early on were just sort of everyman topics that affect everybody kind of thing. And I spoke to people in my network about what they thought about it, and what they told me was that the ones that they liked the best were the ones that had an element of humor in them, and the ones that actually showed my personality. So where I'd had the courage to step away from being a bland vanilla PMO robot to actually bringing some of my personality and some of my thoughts and feelings and opinions to what it is I'm talking about. So I started to bring more of that to what I was doing, and that sort of culminated in the creation of Pragmatic PMO Person, who is a kind of like an exaggeration of a small part of me, if you like.
Well, as I said at the beginning of our conversation, that's the bit that really resonated, because you don't typically get that, you know, there are certain careers, disciplines, you know, and I'm an ex-accountant, and I can say this, you get tarred with a certain brush as you go into certain careers.
Yes.
But 2020 has allowed us to bring a bit more human into it. You know, I think more people are forgiving than they maybe were before 2020. You know, the people have cats walking across their desk, they have kids in the background, they have helicopters flying over, and there's just, it's the kind of thing that I do honestly think society has got more forgiving and more considerate to the fact that we all have a life. So that's a takeaway for me. And also just on your, you know, taking a blog and making it into a video, it's so much harder to distill, you know, maybe 1,000 words in a blog into a 90-second video, you know, to really get your point across. That's an art as well. We've all learned that through, you know, how to create status reports, how to create management commentaries and stuff like that. You just want to go and tell everything, but you can't. You've really got to distill it down. So I think that in itself has proven that, you know, you've got there's another string to your bow. You can take, you know, long copy and create some really short form messages to deliver. So there's a lot of skills enhancement there as well.
Picking up on what you said about status reports, I think that I think that there's a parallel there. So in a status report, you would often give the headlines of what's going on, or the hot topics, key risks and issues, and then you might provide a link for whoever's reading the report to go off and look at it in more detail if they want. So in the same way that you would do that with a status report, with one of these sort of short social videos, what I would typically do is the video would concentrate on maybe just one point, and you can probably only get one point across in 60 to 90 seconds, but then provide a link to the original blog article that inspired the video, so that if people want to, they can go and read about it in more detail. Yeah. And you don't have to try and squash all of that detail into the video.
It encourages that deeper engagement as well. If they really like it, they go and look. And you know, and I can quite imagine that, you know, there'll be some contractors or consultants looking at this going, where do you find the time? You know, you've have got to have written the blog. Secondly, you then distill what's that one point, then you record it, then you edit it, then you have, you know, the copy that goes around it. As you say, it's about an hour, a couple of hours a week potentially that you have to carve out, but that has allowed you to do a lot more things. You know, I know that your business has grown over the last 12 months. You've gone global to a certain degree as well, which is well done. You know, it's the beginning of global domination by Pragmatic PMO, but I'm glad I was at the beginning of the journey, so we can see how it goes. But also, I suppose you've got a bit of a head start on people because you've written a book, okay? And I am fascinated by the whole process. You know, just getting my thoughts down on paper, but being able to then create something that is a compelling read for others, and then you go and get it published, and then you go and get it, you know, you advertise it, you know, and all that, and fulfillment. I mean, you know, just, do you have to pack it in a box and send it off yourself? When actually, you know, explain how it works. That would be really helpful for me.
Well, the process of writing the book started with a friendly argument at a networking event. So it's a PMO networking event, PMO flash mob, and I had an argument there with, I say argument, it was a friendly argument. We were talking about the transferability of lessons learned. So the chap I was talking to reckoned that they were only really useful to apply in very, very similar projects to the one that created them. And I disagree with that. I think that you can often take elements from a lesson that's been learned in a project and apply it to other projects if you think about things in the right way. I reckon if you stand back from a piece of learning and kind of screw your eyes up a bit and think in terms of themes rather than the specifics of what was going on in a particular project, you can often take an element of a lesson and apply it in lots and lots of different circumstances. So it might be about stakeholder engagement or something like that, you know, the specific lesson often has a much more generic application if you think about it in the right way.
I talk about patterns. I think there are patterns everywhere, and things just, you know, history repeats itself. Yeah.
Yes. So to prove my point to this guy, I created a little survey and I posted it on my website, and I posed a few questions and gave a few scenarios to people and asked them how transferable they thought those lessons were. And I did a bit of blogging on my website, pragmaticpmo.com, about lessons learned and other topics. And I've been blogging on there for years, but I did a bit more about lessons learned. And then subsequent events, he started challenging me that I should maybe pull this stuff together and write a book. And then after that, the same guy, whenever he saw me, he said, you written that book yet? And I thought, actually, you know, there might be something in that, because for quite a while I fancied writing a book, having a go at writing a book. I was never really quite sure what I would write it about, but I thought, actually, maybe this is a subject that I could write a book about. So I pulled together all the blog posts that I'd written on lessons learned and just stuck them in a Word document to see how much there was. And to my pleasant surprise, there was actually quite a bit there. And I thought, well, that's starting to feel like a book, enough material, that is, for a book. How do I pull that together? How do I create a narrative, a sense of flow and development to that? So then I started thinking about how to structure it. I took out bits of duplication, filled in some gaps, and thought about what it was that I wanted to talk about. I did some research on some of the models of organizational learning from experience that are out there. I found a couple. Some of them resonated with me, but not entirely. I didn't find them entirely reflective of my own experience. So I've been in the project management arena delivering projects since 2002. And what I was seeing, although I could understand it and relate to it, didn't resonate fully with me. So I created my own framework, model, whatever you want to call it, of how I think it works. And that felt better to me. And I was trying to rationalize the two, and I realized that they were related. And in the book, I explain how they're related. But anyway, I digress. So the reason why I wrote the book is because I hate to see waste, and that's waste in any form. So waste of my resources, waste of other people's resources. And to me, the knowledge that's generated in a project from the experience of delivering a project, if that doesn't get used, to me, that feels like a waste. So I've always been interested in how do we try and stop that waste? How do we capture that learning? How do we use it? So I pulled together all the blog posts that I'd written, filled in the gaps, as I said, removed duplication, and created this narrative around the model that I had developed. I looked at how it can go wrong in organizations, how learning works, how it can go wrong. And then I looked at each of those steps and thought about how we can actually do it better to capture more of that learning and reuse it on other projects, and I ended up with a book. So I wrote all of that myself. And earlier on, you were talking about how to carve out the time whilst delivering on a project. And the answer for me was on a train. So a bit like J.K. Rowling, me and J.K. Rowling were like this. I had a half an hour commute on the train every morning, half-hour commute on the way back home again. That was when I'd been writing things like blog posts and presentations and that kind of stuff. And I used it to write my book. At the time, I was taking my son to look at universities, and so what I did was I'd go to a university and then I'd find their library. And whilst my son's going to all those presentations about the course and the university and all the rest of it, I'd sit there and do a bit on my book. And that was how I did it. And to write the whole thing and edit it and refine it and all of that kind of stuff took me about a year. So in little chunks of half an hour on the train. And when I got it to a state where I thought it was finished, I got it reviewed by a group of my peers. So as I said, I belong to various networking groups, and I took a group of about 6 to 8 people that I trust and sent them the manuscripts and said, what do you think of this? They made their comments, and I made some edits and all of that kind of stuff. And then I had a manuscript that I was happy with. There were some bits that weren't perfect, but I thought, well, if I don't publish it, it's never going to happen. I can refine it. So I took that manuscript and I used Amazon's self-publishing model. So that's I say very straightforward. There are some fiddly bits to it, but in essence, what you do is you have a word processing document that you upload to a portal. That gets checked by various automated means. And once they're happy with it, you design a cover. You put the cover on, you agree, there's various pricing models and various sort of revenue sharing models that you can sign up to. Now the book is published on Amazon as a paperback and Kindle version.
Wow. And does that cost anything to do that on Amazon?
There's no outlay at all.
There's no upfront fee like that. No.
You don't have to pay for a print run. It's nothing like that. The way that it works, when people order the book, it's printed on demand.
Oh, right. Okay. And do they fulfill it well?
Yep, there's no concept of stock, so you don't have to have a box full of them in your garage. Yeah. I do have a few that I sign and either give to people or sell to people at events and things like that. Yeah. So you can order them that way as an author, but you don't have to put out any outlay whatsoever with that model.
Excellent.
Which is one of the things I find attractive. Yeah,
it's very, very good. I didn't know about it. You know, I've looked at different publishing houses. I've looked at using ghostwriters, using editors, you know, just because to see which is a route that would allow me to get something out there, but actually not consume all of my time, you know, just give them a brain dump effectively rather than you know, but potentially I think I might explore the Amazon route now, because that sounds really interesting. So well done, excellent. Yeah, excellent. I won't ask you what your sales are like at the moment, but maybe in the future on the #1 bestseller.
I don't think it's going to enable me to retire, but I set myself a mental target when I did it, yeah, I passed that target quite some time ago, so I'm happy.
Yeah, no, excellent. And you know, just the subject as well, the actual topic that you've written about, very close to my heart. I mean, you know, as consultants, you know, people going into organizations, there are some things that we are just never there to do properly. We deliver, the project tends to get wound down, you know, they get expensive consultants off the park really quickly. Benefits realization is a big thing to me, you know, because as an accountant, it's like, you know, who's going to look after this if the benefits don't realize for another 12 months, you know, who's going to make sure that they're in next year's budget, you know, all that type of thing. Yep. But lessons learned is one of those big things as well. And I think we've spoken recently about, I think there should be smaller interventions rather than a big bang at the end of the project. There should be checkpoints where we go, okay, where are we up to so far, you know, and actually how can we learn, because there's another project that we've all been on that had at this particular point that type of challenge. What did we do going forward so that we don't persist that problem going forward? So yeah, that's a really, it's a topic close to my heart, and I think everybody should be reading your book in order to be able to really learn from you doing something in the field effectively, not the theorists, not the academics who said this is how it should work, but the stuff that you've learned over 20 years.
Yeah, well, the model that I present in the book is based on my experience of doing lessons learned in projects, and it does draw on some of the theoretical stuff out there as well. Yeah. But the book itself is aimed at providing, whilst as you might expect from Pragmatic PMO, it's aimed at providing practical tips that people can implement to help improve the way that they learn lessons from projects.
No, absolutely. So what's next? What's the future bring for you then? What does 21 look like? Is there another book in there somewhere, or is it, you know, are you building your team? Are you going, you know, looking for more global clients? What does Pragmatic PMO look like in the future?
Well, I think there could be another book. There could be another book, but not anytime soon. I think that what I am looking to do next is to take the things that I typically do on a program PMO type engagement and package it into small services where I can go into a client and make a difference quickly. So the sort of things that I would do, for example, setting up program infrastructure at the beginning of a program might be to set up things like RAID registers, program level planning, financial trackers, that kind of stuff. So I think that what I'll be doing is packaging those things into small services so that I can go into a client and maybe look at the biggest problems that they're having, and in a focused, prioritized kind of way, tackle and deal with the things that are causing them particular problems, whether it's governance, whether it's planning, whether it's cost forecasting and estimating and tracking, whatever that is. Yeah, so there's that bit. I will probably be looking into setting up some kind of training course based on the book. And I shall also be looking to grow the team. So at the moment, as you said, I'm now in a multiple client situation, and some of them international. And as that expands, I dare say it'll get to a point where I won't be able to do it all myself, and I shall probably be looking for some people to help me do that. So yeah, that's what's next.
Excellent. And the brand, you're going to start to publicize it a little bit more so it becomes less Ken Burrell and more Pragmatic PMO?
Well, yes, I would agree with that. That's something I've always tried to do. I am Ken Burrell, but I'm Ken Burrell from Pragmatic PMO. So yes, I will be focusing more on the Pragmatic PMO side of things and less on the Ken Burrell.
Yeah, and your 3 Ps, PPP, Pragmatic PMO person, I think is probably a good hook for that to start. It's neutral, but it says exactly what you do on the tin. So yeah, I think that's a way to go.
You may have spotted from my stuff that I do like a bit of alliteration. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I like.
And the person bit was designed to be non-gendered.
Yeah, no, I think you've nailed that one completely, to be honest with you. Still not sure about the moustache and the headwear, but let's go with it for now. That can be part of your blooper reel, I think, in the future. When you are truly international, you can be, look where I started. It's your backstory, I suppose. So Ken, given that you have talked about your future services and how you're maybe going to niche down a little bit, and how it's not all going to be about you could be growing your team, what kind of services could clients come and look to you for support with? Okay,
well, Pragmatic PMO basically is about helping organizations to improve the way that they change. Now, sometimes we do that by supporting program directors as they deliver strategic change programs. And sometimes it's by providing executives with the insights they need to make decisions about those change programs. Our clients value the pragmatic focus that we bring to our assignments and the structure that we bring to project delivery. If you're a program director, we can set up and run program management infrastructure like governance, cost trackers, delivery schedules, and RAID registers to help you to answer the questions. When will it be delivered? How much will it cost? And is it still worth it? If you're a portfolio PMO director, we can help you to embed the lessons of the past into the corporate memory by pruning and primping your processes so they're fit for the future. So if you're an organization that would like to get a bit more choosy about how you change, then why not get in touch?
Excellent. Well said. And there's lots in there, I think, for us to all think about and consider, more than I imagined, to be perfectly honest with you, from a vanilla PMO person, which you are clearly not. So, and long may that continue. It's been really lovely to talk to you, Ken. Thanks so much again for your time, and let's catch up soon. I think the beer is long overdue. Okay?
Yes. Yeah, thanks, Karen.
All right. See you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.